one of those people who seems to be an observer of obscure news. I don't know why, it just happens. Anyway, last year in February, I came across a story about somebody in southern Manitoba who thought they had seen a number of UFOs. Okay, so I thought I'd have a look. And what I found very fast was that on that same day, there was an organization called Starlink, which had launched a series of satellites over southern Manitoba. Oh, well, there you go. That's the answer. So it also said it was doing another launch the same day I happened to find this. So I ran outside that night, stood there by my car in the driveway, and watched as these tiny little dots of white light, which are the satellites, reflecting the sun, moved apart across the sky. Cool. Very cool. Well, it was Starlink. Starlink is owned by Elon Musk, solely, personally. And Starlink is also being launched into orbit by SpaceX, also owned by Elon Musk. Oh, what a surprise. And, of course, the same guy is the one who's trying to give us electric cars, although he's starting at the high end rather than the cheap end, which is kind of unfortunate because it would make more sense to give more people electric vehicles. I guess he's trying to get his way down through the R&D cycle. Well, anyway, now that we all know that this is happening, why is it happening? The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of the world where it's just impractical to put in fiber optic cables or, frankly, any kind of cables. First of all, some places will never be able to afford it at this particular point in history. If we were to say in the next 50 years, will you have internet supply? It's going to be spotty at best and expensive. You know how you get jammed for your feed from your cell phone company? Well, it's no better anywhere. Well, it is better everywhere else, but it's still expensive in relative terms. How much? $1 trillion a year is what internet feed is worth. Now, internet feed is an interesting choice of words because there's so much you can do with it. Like, for example, this month, I bought myself and installed a Magic Jack. I now have a New York phone number, although I live in Winnipeg, and you can phone me at it. And it costs me a low price of $30 US a year. Yeah. Eventually, once my wife is agreeable, I will port, that is move, our existing phone number to it, and everybody will be able to call. And I can call long distance worldwide, not worldwide, North America wide, because of course they want to put some limits on themselves, for free. Yeah. And of course, if someone else has a Magic Jack, let's say, in Mumbai, and they want to get a hold of Grandpa and Grandma here in Canada, if they both have Magic Jacks and they're both, say, registered in New York, nobody can really tell. It's going through the internet. The only time that this is, of course, a problem is when you get to certain countries where they don't want the word to get out on just exactly what's going on in the rest of the world. I'm not going to name names, but I think you can figure out who I'm talking about. And if you go to those countries and your laptop and you try to get your email, you are SOL. That's right, straight out of luck. So, there is a time and a place for all things. Now, knowing that Elon Musk is doing this, I dug deeper into the story. And the plan is not just to service rural North America. It is to service the entire world. That's right. While there are going to be about 500 satellites, actually I think we're just past that number now, maybe 600, the world will be covered with a blanket of 12,000 satellites. Can you say space junk? Yeah, that's exactly the first thought that came to my mind too. Because you've seen that picture of a globe with all of those little things whizzing around it. Space junk like wrenches and who knows what all else, right? So, Elon Musk, doing the right thing, because that seems to be his style these days, has equipped each of his satellites with a xenon rocket. I don't understand how a xenon rocket works, and I don't really care, but it does two things. One, it moves them out of the way in case something's going to hit one of his rather precious satellites, I suspect. And the other thing is that at the end of 3 years, it will take that satellite, turn it around, and fire it down into the ocean. Or, somewhere uninhabited where it won't do any damage. Why? Well, I mean, really, let's suppose that you were stuck using a tin can telephone and you were from when you were 10 years old. The wires wear out, right? The little string. Same with everything else. Things wear out as well. They also get passe. I mean, we're at IPv6, Internet Protocol version 6. Wow, who even knew, right? There's a lot of that stuff that isn't rolled out yet, but it's coming. And what it does is it increases the number of addresses, not necessarily the speed. What's Elon doing that's so cool? Well, Elon is actually creating competition, and he's doing it at a really high-tech level. The hardware that you have to buy, unfortunately, is about $800 that has to go in the backyard to hook up to your computer, and I didn't want to blow that or I'd have it. The point is, there's new competition coming. Now, I thought, I wonder if Elon is the only guy. No, it turns out not. There are two others. Amazon. Ooh, who knew? I guess Jeff Bezos has a few extra billion to throw around on satellites, eh? And Telesat. Telesat? Who the heck is Telesat? Well, maybe if you've ever used a satellite phone, you've heard of them. They are a telecommunications company owned by the government of Canada. That's it. Every one of them is going into what's called low Earth orbit satellites. Low Earth orbit, what is that? Low Earth orbit, as opposed to, say, high Earth orbit, 250,000 kilometers from Earth is fairly high Earth orbit, okay? Low Earth orbit is about 300 kilometers. And the time it takes for light to travel 300 kilometers is less than 30 milliseconds. In fact, the latency time, that's the time it takes to go from A to B in the internet, is unbelievably fast when you use the satellites. Someone in North Manitoba, who was using one of these setups, came out and said, I have got 126 megabit per second speed with 17 milliseconds latency. Now, I'm using a wired thing from Bell, and I was getting a hold of someone in Barcelona, and I pinged them, and it took 196 milliseconds for my signal to travel from Winnipeg to Barcelona through wires. Why the big difference? Well, repeaters. Yeah, what happens is that your signal goes to another place which holds sort of onto it and says, I can't have enough strength to get you all the way, and then fires it off again. Renewed. This is getting better and better as we get fewer and fewer repeaters, by the way, and our fiber optics carry things further and further. But it's not a perfect world yet. So, what happens to your signal with something like Elon Musk's Starlink? It goes 300 miles straight up, and then the satellites point to each other and communicate with each other. And your information goes wherever it's quickest and easiest to go. And there's a slight speed increase in the speed of light because of the loss of those repeaters. And it's actually not an increase in the speed of light at all. It's just an increase in the amount of time that it takes to get through all the garbage. So, I'm all in favor of better communications because I know that's the lifeblood of business. I'm also all in favor of better government. And that means, to me, looking to the future. That means I never vote Conservative because to conserve is to keep ourselves in the past. And as you know now, I'm not interested in what's going on. I want to know where we're going, and let's go there together. So don't vote Conservative. Vote to the left wing. If that means Liberal or NDP, that's your decision, but don't vote Conservative. Unless, of course, you want to go ultimately back to the Stone Age. My name's Pat Stewart, and I never vote Conservative, and now you know